are still thinking that you need to be taught with tools that are no longer useful. 5 years ago, less than 5. Yeah, 5 years ago, the word iPad did not exist in our vocabulary. iPad did not exist. In less than 5 years, hundreds of millions of iPads have been made. And hundreds of millions of Chinese now have jobs. So either learn Mandarin Chinese or develop something yourself. So the tales and tools have to come together, and we have to use if we're going to influence propaganda. Speaking of propaganda, this one film has done more to damage the culture of Black America than anything ever created. This film, based on a book, The Klansman by Dixon, was seen and ran in first run around the world for about 10 years. Woodrow Wilson, who was president at the time, said that this film best described the Negro problem in America than anything ever shown. This last scene here is one of my, I hate to use the word, favorite scenes. But this scene is supposed to be the South Carolina legislature. And this was, of course, during Reconstruction. The movie was based on what was happening during Reconstruction. And look at the congressman picking the toes, eating chicken. You know that this scene is the only scene where they had actual Black actors in the movie. All the other scenes were white actors in blackface. And how they got this scene done was they invited all these Black guys into this set. And they said, we're going to give you, I think it was like $20 or $25. And I remember, this is during hard times. And they said, yeah, what do we do? I said, oh, I'm just going to bring some chicken in. You just pick your toes, eat chicken. And they did the scene, not knowing what the scene was about. Well, this movie and the book written, Klansman, sold, get this, back in the turn of the century, 5 million copies. So this became the parameter for Black culture in America. This set us back all the way to the Civil Rights Movement in the 60s. That's the power of images. As a matter of fact, Oscar Michaud, those of you ever heard of Oscar Michaud, young folks? If you don't, Google him. Oscar Michaud saw this movie in Chicago the night a riot broke out. There were riots. What you don't know about the reality of this particular movie, Black people didn't take this movie sitting down. There were riots throughout America. Every time this movie showed, there were riots. Black people really detested the images because it was so much propaganda against the reality of where we were. Remember, this is during Reconstruction. This period is supposed to be covering Reconstruction. So we knew that it was a lie, what was really what had really happened in America. Well, Oscar Michaud saw this movie sitting in a theater. A riot broke out. Some people were injured in Chicago. And he walked out and said, I must learn how to control my image. And he began writing books and then turned those books into movies. The Homesteader, Within Our Gates was an answer to this. And he became the first Black filmmaker and still the most prolific filmmaker, Black, that the world has ever seen. He did the first full-length talking. He did the first full-length silent film. He did the first film ever shown on Broadway. He died a poor man in 1953 or 54. But it was his understanding of the power of images that changed his life and the lives of many film producers who made race movies to counter this image. We have work to do, people. The reality of the Reconstruction era is at the top. That's what congressmen in South Carolina looked like and dressed like. And the perception that people bought into until the Civil Rights Movement is at the bottom. So perception has trumped reality. Remember the Anita Hill trial? The young people may remember. The thing that I most remember about that trial was every Black person who knew a white person that day had to hear a white person say, I never knew there were that many black people who spoke so well. I mean, if I had gotten answered that question so many times, that was the first time that that generation of Americans, white, had seen black people in such a controlled situation. Now, we know that they're there, but you got to remember, the reality and the perception are different. The perception of us as a people, right now, what's the perception of us as a people? If you're not hip-hop, who are the most famous people on the black planet here? Beyonce, Jay-Z, P. Diddy, LeBron James. Well, I'll get him in. These are the people that lead your perception, not the reality. Using media to shape opinions and define culture. That's what your job is. And you can make a lot of money doing it. Or you can become a tool of the three corporations and fulfill their purpose by spreading the propaganda for their good and their purpose.
I don't want to rule or conquer anyone.
This is the greatest speech
like to help everyone
ever made.
Jew, Gentile,
Beats
black
the
man,
Gettysburg
white.
Address.
We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world, there's room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. The aeroplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think, or what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men, machine men, with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines, you are not cattle, you are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate, only the unloved hate, the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery, fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke it is written, the kingdom of God is within man, not one man, nor a group of men, but in all men, in you. You, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world, that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power, but they lie. They do not fulfill their promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite!
That speech was in a movie called The Dictator, and it was written and performed by Charlie Chaplin. And the movie was so powerful that it helped shift the tide of thinking of Adolf Hitler. And it really drove the influence of us and other countries rearing up and going against this tyrant. It is one of the greatest speeches ever written and ever performed. You might say, what are the other two that I have in mind? One, of course, is March on Washington. I happen to have been there that day. The other is the Gettysburg Address. Now, what do all three people who gave that speech have in common? The speeches are powerful. The speech giver were all either assassinated or had their careers ruined. Charlie Chaplin, after that speech, moved to America. He had to leave Europe because the assassins that Hitler had to take him out. He came to America to hide out and was considered after the war being one of the most important voices of the propaganda movement against Hitler. Well, the same man who wrote The Klansman also wrote the first book to introduce the Red Scare, the fear of communism. And his pupil was a guy by the name of McCarthy. Well, he and McCarthy labeled Charlie Chaplin a communist and ran him out of his country into exile, and he died in exile. And you know what happened to the other two gentlemen, the one who did March on Washington and the Gettysburg Address. Why? Because they understood the power of propaganda, and their power message was so powerful that they were taken out. It's real, folks. You may have not, I noticed her name has been showing more in the press lately. Sarah Bachman from the Bush tribe in South Africa. She was considered the Venus Hottentot, the most beautiful woman in the world. And she was considered that based on her physique, which was part of the tribal rights of this tribe in South Africa. She was paraded among people in England for years. People would stand in line for hours in the rain to pay 25 cents to just view her body. It's a very tragic story. As you see, she died in her 20s. Her private parts were on display until 1985. The first official act of Mandela when he became president was to petition and force France to send back her body parts where they were finally buried in a tribal homeland. Now, what is the significance of this today? That's us. That's our propaganda to ourselves. The power of images. Back to the future. There's LeBron. Look at this propaganda. You see stuff like that, you just let it go by. Oh, that's isn't that cute? It's propaganda. What does that say about the black male? Huh? Perception, reality. Be mindful about stereotypes. Only one of them is a convicted felon. Propaganda. How the images have been shaped. If Du Bois is correct, all art is propaganda, and a culture will live or die by its ability to control its propaganda. Young people, and directly to you, you're at a university with the tools you need, up-to-date tools. One of the few universities that have this that I have seen in my travels. The only other one that I have anything can match this is a school called Savannah School of Art and Design, SCAD. They have a building, a complex in Atlanta, and they have one in Savannah. That school is in the 21st century. You have 21st century techniques and tools in that building. Use them to understand how to use your power to get your propaganda to control your cultural story. If you don't, you have wasted your time and mine. Buckmaster Fuller, Google it. He says, you never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete. That's what we have to do. One of my pet peeves about us as a people and about how politics are being used, we're still using 20th century techniques to fight 21st century issues and problems. The civil rights era was so important to all of us. That's why many of us are here today. But we can't use those techniques today. They got us. They know how it's going to end. They've seen that. It just doesn't work. Your former governor of this state, Barbara, was he governor? Yeah. What did he just say 2 days ago? Tar babies. You relate to the president as tar babies. Now, where's the outcry? Nobody saying anything. 20th century, he's using 20th century wounding words, as Maya Angelou said, words are powerful things. He knows what he was saying. He's using that 20th century stuff. We can't deal with that. We have to use 21st century tools, 20th century thoughts, and create a new dynamic, a new paradigm for us as a people. If we don't, we're going to hip-hop right into oblivion. To compete with the media propaganda machines of the 21st century, it will take passion, commitment, skill, and sacrifice. That last one, last but not least, you can ask any of these men and women here who have been in the business and carrying the pail for some time, that they've had to make sacrifices, serious sacrifices. It's affected their lives, their financial, their personal, their health. This is a very serious business that you've chosen to get in and called mass communication. If you don't understand that, don't do it. Do you know it's easier to become a doctor in America than become a filmmaker? If you go to any system of schools, practice after that, what is it, 12 years maybe? If you're going to specialize in a particular medicine or technique, 8 years. When you finish 8 to 12 years in medical school, you can get a job. Well, if you got a C or better. If you got under a C, please don't practice medicine. But if you got a C or better, you can get a job anywhere in the world. You don't even have to speak the language as a doctor. They need you. Now, film. You do 8 years, 12 years, and you can wait tables anywhere you want to wait tables. It doesn't matter. What matters in becoming a successful filmmaker is commitment, passion, skill, and sacrifice. Our business is dangerous. Why would a man who created what we call as television ask me, sitting in yellow pants, what is my propaganda? I've never forgotten that and will never forget that. It is propaganda that controls the minds and hearts of the masses. If you want to be a mass comm and don't understand that, do something else. If you understand it, do it well, and you can help your culture in ways that have not even been dreamt of. You can change the perception of black males and black women. You can change the perception of someone. What are some of the problems? Most of the things that black people die of are lifestyle issues. Right. Black men won't go get checkups, so we die of prostate cancer more than anyone else. Black women, we won't do things that have to do with lifestyles, drugs, whatever it is, it's lifestyles. You can change that by changing the mindset of people with the power of the words, the powers of the pictures that you put out. Can you make a living doing it? Yeah, you can, if you do it well. And you make a point of creating your own space. Whether you like Tyler Perry's work or not, I don't particularly care. There's some of his stuff I look at, I can't watch all the way. But I admire him as a filmmaker and as a businessman. He took what I've been trying to do for 18 years. Not only did he make it work, he is financially set for the rest of his life and several generations of any family he has. Because he understood the power of his propaganda. And the other thing is, he understood his audience. He knew who his audience was. Same women who go to T.D. Jakes, all these other people. He understood, and he fed them the propaganda that they wanted and accepted. and it's made him very wealthy. Yes, you can become very wealthy. The other thing it does for you, you're talking paying off, you travel the world. I'm a little poor kid from Norfolk, Virginia, raised in segregation. I've been around the world twice. I've had dinners with presidents and kings. Little old kid from Color Town. The business can do that for you. But you gotta be good. You gotta sacrifice. And above all, you gotta have skills. If you don't have them, you'll be somewhere going, you want lids on these? A good storyteller must be disciplined, able to condense facts, details, and opinions into thought-provoking infotainment. It's no longer information. It's infotainment. And if you don't entertain, you will not get the viewer or the listener to stay with you for no time at all. The game has changed. There's no longer networks. You can create a network. I'm talking to my granddaughter last time I was in LA, and I'm telling her I'm excited because I've broken down this project that I'm doing into small bites. I said, yeah, I got 9 minutes. I'm going to do this webisodes. I've heard you guys talk about. She said, what? She said, no, you got to put it on Vine. I said, what's Vine? She said, oh, it's the latest thing. Some guy just become a millionaire just doing it. I said, what is Vine? 6 seconds. I said, what? Yeah, 6 seconds. That's all. For Vine. I just got used to Instagram doing 15 seconds. Now I got to cut it down to 6 seconds. I tell you what, if I want to reach the young audience, the millennial generation, I better learn how to do it in 6 seconds. That's the task that I have to do. At my age and at where I am, I don't really want to do all this. But I'm not going to retire. I got too many enemies. So I have to keep creating. And I have to learn the tools to reach you. And that's what I'll say to, if I may shift now over to the old folks. The word discipline, I put first because I learned the importance of discipline from Mr. Wickham. He and I, he hired me almost 30 years ago, I guess it was. God, it was a long time ago. To come to Baltimore to do a project. And I forgot what it was some promotional piece on camera. And I went there. And I was very impressed with Mr. Wickham. And two fronts. One is that he was prepared when we got there. Things were done. We went in, we got it done on time. The other was how he treated me. He treated me with a respect that I didn't even get in Los Angeles from folks, especially black folks. We don't respect one another. You know, we just don't. That crab in the barrel series is getting stronger than it is. I'd like to see that left in the 20th century, but it isn't. You're dragging crabs in the barrel in the 21st century, young folks. Leave it alone. But he did that. I said, wow. And we've been working together ever since. So when I had an opportunity to create a project, I thought, what I need now is someone who's disciplined. One thing about writers that I say of all writers, that news writers, and people who write in condensed stories, are by far worth their weight in gold. Why? Because the discipline that he has, I'll tell you one of the disciplines that he has, when he's time to write his column for US Today, I don't care who you are or where you are, goodbye. He's going to go sit in a room and write his column however long it takes. I don't care if you're there to be entertained by him or you're at his house, you can forget it. He's in that column. That kind of discipline in writing is important. Anybody who wants to be a writer, one thing you got to remember, what do writers do? They write. And I ask you, yeah, I'm a writer. Yeah, how often do you write a day? Well, I mean, I've got a story I'm working on. If you don't write every day, you're not a writer. You will want to be writer. This guy will write. One time, he would piss me off with his writing. I said, Dwayne, come on, man. I got tickets, front row tickets to the championship fight in Vegas. We're going to fly out, man. Come on. Dwayne said, you go ahead. Front row seats. at a Tyson Holyfield fight in Vegas at Caesar's Palace. These tickets cost like $3,000. Dwayne, there's a G4 waiting at Van Nuys Airport. Come on, man. I got to do this column. I left him. I go to the fight. He missed out on that. Was the ear-biting fight. He has left me in so many places to go do his column. Disciplines. The discipline that I admire as a creative person. So when I needed somebody, and I had a limited budget and a tight schedule, and I needed a writer, I knew where to go. Dwayne, can you help me with this documentary? I need you to write it for me. What's the schedule? What's the subject? When do you need it? Bam, it was there. Not only on time, it was well done, and I discovered the way that journalists go after stories and why I think they will make great documentary writers and also fictional writers, is that, and you guys in the younger group have to understand this, it requires research. It requires finding the facts, but not letting the facts dictate the story. They are storytellers. They go out and condense these incredible factual events into infotainment. Because if you read their column and you're not entertained, if they haven't got you in the first paragraph, you're going to turn the page and go to something else. So they have to have their lead line. What's the best writing, the best opening of any book? Well, the second best opening. The first is in the beginning. But the second best is, these were the worst, best of times, these were the worst of times. Incredible way to start a book. They got you. Well, writers, especially writers who write columns, who write these short articles, are great in terms of transitioning into what I need in terms of films. We have written about 3 films together, well 2 I know at least. A couple of them have gone in development, and I'm going to make Judge Not. We brought him in when I did a television series for Showtime called Links. It was a political series, and it was about a black Republican who owned a bar behind the hill. And I knew right then I needed Dwayne. I needed Dwayne's political point of view for this guy. I needed someone who could be up to date with what was happening in Washington. And he became a staff writer with us. There are needs of writers who can do that. Now, and I'll kind of slow down here for any questions, but here's what I think is needed. Where are the opportunities? It's nice to say all these things, but where are the opportunities? I think the opportunities are, particularly right now in our history, in our culture, better than they've been in a long time. Why? Because so few people do anything well. The level of mediocrity in our business now is unbelievable. Do I have to say Kim Kardashian? It's unbelievable who are stars today and who are driving the entertainment machine. Unbelievable. So quality and class and well-written stories still are important. And we have less time now because most of the millennials, they're looking at stuff in 6, 15-second bites, so you got to grab them right away. But they understand quality. There is a postmodern movement happening among millennials. Millennials actually are going back. Guess what's coming in now? Vinyl records. Millennials. They're discovering some parts of the past that intrigue them. They want to speak with elders. I started Legacy Media Institute 5 years ago. And my idea was I needed an army. And all the people my age around my group are burnt out. They just burn out. They're ready to quit. I ain't ready to quit. I owe too much money. And so I said, I better get with this group that right now I don't particularly care too much about, millennials, because I had bought into the propaganda of millennials. Then I started hanging out with millennials. I first went to England. I'm hanging out with these young filmmakers, independent thinking filmmakers. They don't care about the system. They're thinking about YouTube and what's happening in Nigeria, the movement of Nigeria. I'm going, what's going on? So I go to Nigeria. Nigeria is the second largest filmmaking country in the world. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and it's all underground. It's all like, I mean, there is no system. The government, I met with the Minister of Culture, and they were saying, can you help us? We don't know how to control this. Matter of fact, I don't know if those that travel, and I know my group here will testify, I have yet to go anywhere in the world, anywhere, where I didn't find a Nigerian with a blanket selling incense and knockoff Louis Vuittons. I have not. Have you ever been anywhere and didn't find a Nigerian? When I went to Nigeria, they asked me, so you got any questions? Yes. Can somebody take me for a tour of the knockoff Louis Vuitton factory? Well, this is what they do now. You want to buy a movie, a Nigerian movie? Find a guy who's selling knockoff Louis Vuittons and incense, because he's also selling the movies. They got their own system. They bypass Blockbuster, YouTube, all of it. Multi-billion-dollar system that they created. A new paradigm. And we're trying to figure out why black films don't sell overseas. Get out of here. So these young filmmakers are different, and I started working with them in Nigeria, in England, Trinidad, and thanks to Dwayne, a few in Cuba. It's a fascinating business for them, and they're doing things that are going to change the face of black filmmaking in their particular countries. We in this country are still stuck in the system. Those three corporations. You got to break the yoke. You can make money today just selling to folks who look at movies on these little things. But you got to control the system. And if there isn't one, create one. Any questions? Thoughts? Listen. Into thought? What's it?
That's the bottom line.
Oh.
No
Oh, it's spelled wrong. Yes. Okay.
Sorry.
I put it having autocorrect. I'm getting lazy. To the area of possibilities, especially to the seasoned veterans and writers, I think there's an opportunity in this country in particular for a group to form a distribution or a home-based network of information and infotainment that doesn't exist. If you look at where we get information, look at the defense of our president. Where is it coming from? Bill Maher, Jon Stewart, and a few others. What's missing in our culture right now is wit. We have no wit. We have a lot of people regurgitating the thoughts of the propaganda machine. And I would hate to see Cornell and a few others fall in that category, but they are. Where is the wit? Where are the journalists, the writers who are online in their individual visuals, saying with wit the kinds of thought-provoking things, that this culture needs in order to combat the negative propaganda that we're getting from the corporate oligarchies who control the thought machines. We don't have it. So I think there's a way to do that. I think you do it with documentaries. I think you do it with, we're going to create a program, I'm actually talking to Jack White, and I'm certainly going to come with Dwayne on it, but I want to create a program called Black Action. And the concept is, I have an Oval Office set at my studio. It's a full-size, down to the inch replica of the Oval Office. And so we're going to shoot the show in the Oval Office. And basically it's going to be an answer to